You are watching Omnis Protocol, and I am Charles, also known as Omnis, and we are back with another Star Wars Shatterpoint Battle Report with commentary, and I'm freshly back from the Las Vegas Open. I recorded quite a few games, and I'm really excited to share them with all of you. So let's get right into this particular game. This is featuring Christopher Sampson, also known as Pure, who came out on top of the event, but this is from the Swiss rounds, which he did not go undefeated, so I'm not spoiling whether this is the one he comes out on top of or not, but I thought it'd be really exciting to start off with some of his games that eventually led to him taking first at LVO. So first off, congratulations to Chris. We also have another really solid player, Smalls on Longshanks, for this particular matchup, so shout out to both of them for letting me record them. And it's an interesting matchup, in my opinion. Both of these players brought Darth Vader, Jedi Hunter, or as we commonly call him, Vader 1. So it kind of feels like we're back in the first year of things, like Vader 1. Back on top, question mark? But they're featuring similar styles, with both with a lot of aggression. But Christopher Sampson, Pure, is running. He's got Iden again. So Iden fallen off a little bit, but on the other side of it, we got Boss, which is one of the new hotness, widely considered one of the better primaries to build around in Shatterpoint at the moment. So we got two very aggressive lists, Iden box versus Delta box. And then on one side, we've got Vader with Death Trooper Escort. That's why I'm representing the Death Trooper Escort shirt or Death Trooper shirt with ISB. And then on the other side, we have Crosshair, also really fantastic secondary with the 501st from the core set. So I'm really excited to see how this game is going to kind of unfold. I didn't get to see much of this game in person. It's just how busy I was. But again, very thankful I got to record it. So we're going to dig into it together. And we're just going to kind of see how this unfolds with two very aggressive lists and how they come on top of this, against each other. It's also being played on Sabotage. So I think it's time to dig in. So this is definitely one where I did bring some of my terrain. At LVO, they do have a lot of 3D prints, which is to kind of like make it happen where, when you're trying to get tables for that many people that fast, you're going to have to 3D print some stuff. But we wanted to show off some stuff on, just kind of classic terrain, but I'm trying to vary up the setup each time I use this terrain to do something fairly different. And this is one of the Frontline Gaming marked mats. So let's see. It looks like player 1 is Smalls. So they're just kind of reviewing, getting decks, cut to kind of start things off. But it looks like they're about to begin. So revealing card now. Oh, they're switching it the right direction. All right, so Pure is actually going first. You can tell the white side of the card points towards player 1. All right. Starting off with a Vader pull. Yeah, I immediately saw that. I was like, I feel like you want to say Vader. You'd much rather, if you go, I was going to say, if you're going to have to go with one of your primaries first, you'd rather it be Iden for all the movement to potentially get up there and take multiple points or threaten characters in deployment. So very funny to get the back-to-back primaries for Chris right away. But as much as that costs him a force, he's got a 7 force list. And I think the ability to know that you have Vader already in reserve for the moment that he's best is still a really big advantage and definitely worth the 1 force overall. So in this case, he's starting off by resolving, all the bonus movement that Iden gives to the other scouts. And so that is going to move both of the Imperial Special Forces and Gideon Hask and herself. So because he bumped the objective as he was resolving the dash, they're just getting it fixed. Let's see. You kind of can't see that unit all that closely because they're kind of nestled behind that terrain. So here he's just getting the other Imperial Special Forces up kind of closer to that objective, harder to push off of it. And there's Hask coming up as well. One of the nice things about this sort of play is I find in Sabotage, it's really key to be able to threaten your opponent's back points. And so even though that positioning isn't necessarily helping taking future points, it could be really critical in protecting a point for, just prevent your opponent from being able to make a good pressure on that side. All right, now we're moving on to, looks like, the movement action for Iden. This makes sense. You'd want to do that before you use her her power for the dash, because that's what gives the focus action, and you want to be close enough to other characters to get the free focus. So it seems like there's some deliberation going on right now. Looks like he's thinking about going a different direction. This may be, so what I'm liking about this is I think he's going, I don't necessarily have a great shot. Like maybe he's not going to get a focus action, so he's worried he's not going to do enough. So maybe he's just going to go after and try to take both midline points with her ability to get extra movement. So there we've got the dash resolved. Or sorry, not the dash, the full advance. All right, now he's doing a little bit of range checking, seeing where he has to go to at least get a shot. He also potentially is going to need to dash to a better location to actually control a point after this. So he's using the ability to get the free dash. He's going up the ladder. You can kind of see marked down as those red triangles kind of mark a ladder that's attached to the terrain to kind of help the players get a visual for it. Right now he's just debating whether or not he wants to switch stances. She's got one stance that does generate a lot of extra movement. All right, 8 dice. I don't know who is getting attacked at the moment. Let's see, 5 dice. I believe that's... Let's see. His expertise yielded a crit and a block to fail. Only going to go 3 down. Not a huge play for Iden, but it is going to be 4 damage, pin, shove. I always love seeing this. 2 players helping each other out, just getting clean movement. Looks like that was just on the 501st. So softening them up. And now he is flipping stances and taking 3 points, but not scoring anything because it is the first round of the game. So not a crazy Iden opener. Definitely when I heard about this matchup, I was thinking if one of these sides is able to get a big Iden or boss play early on that leads to them just kind of creating an overwhelming situation, that maybe that is something that led to who came out on top. But this is honestly relatively average for Iden. Nothing crazy there. Might even say it's slightly below average. I'm not 100% clear whether the Imperial Special Forces ended up on the objective or not. All right. Smalls pulls 501st, but feels like that's not the play that they want. I think they would love to get a little healing done first. And then Vader immediately. This is interesting. Definitely seeing the primaries in the action for a game that you kind of knew was going to be like all-out offense. We end up with it again. So what happened there is that was not a double length ladder on that particular piece of terrain. So he just used the ladder to go up 1 level and then walked across. We did get verification here that both characters are contesting. So we know here that this is not going to flip a point for Vader. So it's interesting, will he go after Iden to try to put early pressure on the primaries, or is he going to try to get the Imperial Special Forces off the table early by getting some early wounds? He is definitely taking damage to roll additional dice. Let's see. 5 dice could be on either. He does declare Coordinated Fire Strain on Iden, so that definitely means he is attacking Iden. Great block from Iden. I think that's going to be 5 overall blocks. But, I mean, also a really solid attack roll for Vader. I'm not even sure there was a fail in there. So, yeah, block 5 and recover for Iden. Looks like 4 down plus 3 damage. And 10 damage strain shove is going to get a kill on her. So definitely starting off with the bigger offensive play from Smalls, but he's only going to end up scoring 2 to start. And that may not seem like much on the surface, but that can be really impactful in this because it's so easy to be going 3 and 3. And when you're player 1 starting off controlling 3 objectives and your opponent only scores 2, it means that you can really keep the score tracker on your side. Pulls Hask. I'm not sure this is what Chris would have wanted in this situation. I think you kind of want someone on the other side of the board taking that objective, but thankfully Hask, I believe, is going to be fast enough to probably pull this off either way. But he might just lean into the aggression. This is a super offensive list. My gut of wanting to score 4 right now, maybe, may just not jive with this exact list. I suppose there's also a world where it is not crazy for him to walk and then dash, get a kill on the 501st, which you already know they're in reserve, and then he moves up and gets onto the right level to take that objective in the back. Looks like he can dash first because Vader is so close by, so he can use that. So maybe he is going to go over there and take that other objective. So my first instincts may have been correct. Yep, taking the Vader. He's taking a shot on Vader now. He's just kind of seeing like how close he's going to have to get afterwards to be able to be in range of that. Because he's not confident he's going to kill Vader for a bonus dash. So he was saying he was going to shoot Vader, but he was like, wait a second. He's considering movement first. So he's going to go ahead and take his advance now before making an attack. I think now he's realizing that maybe he wasn't quite going to get there, so he is going to kind of go for that play that I was just talking about, where he kills the 501st, gets the bonus dash, and he can steal that objective on the back by going up one of the ladders. Four blocks from Vader, very solid, or 4 blocks from the 501st. Very solid. Pool, 1 damage in the pool from expertise. So it looks like 4 down plus a damage. So I think that almost certainly is going to kill the 501st. Yep, 6 damage. So he's going for shoves and a dash. So I think his plan is definitely taking one of the back points. I think he had a higher damage route, but was leaning towards knowing that he probably was going to need some shoves to be able to get to the ladders. Again, you as the watcher can kind of see that they're marked with those red triangles with the black outline. And so just a dash wasn't necessarily going to get him there. All right, but the double shove plus dash definitely does. So now the Iden identity, well, so he gains a momentum, and then Iden identity kicks in. Strain on a fixer. This is pretty huge. Being able to get an early strain on fixer means that anytime that the Republic side wants to be adding fixer dice, you're going to soften him up and make him a really easy target. And I think that's one of the underrated aspects of Iden into the boss list is if you can get that onto fixer, you can cause problems. Also, you can soften him up and do that and force it into a kill. So we get a wound for Pure and score 4 points. I'm just realizing at the moment their tokens for marking the who's controlling which objective is the kind of the same size as the boxes, and because my boxes are red, it kind of looks like that right objective is controlled, but it is not yet. So Smalls reveals Shatterpoint. And so that's what you want. When you're behind, you definitely want to see a Shatterpoint and go, okay, what is my play to get back into this in a big way? And, this list definitely has options to do that, right? Boss has plenty of potential to be moving lots of characters. It definitely burns force. But there is certainly a world where boss could at least set it up for scoring 3 and get some damage out there. So that would be my gut reaction. I don't think we would see some sort of Vader play here. I mean, a Vader play here, really all it accomplishes is like probably killing the ISF. But I just don't think that Vader here scores enough points that it wouldn't kind of escalate out of Small's favor. So right here, they're kind of discussing like Pure is just being a good opponent and reminding like, hey, if you haven't played against Hast, like he does have like an internal revenge trigger, and they're just reviewing kind of what, Smalls initially thought that it was melee only, kind of like Vader, but it is not. But it is attack only. And so if it is done by some sort of explosives, then it would not trigger. So I'm curious who he's going to activate. Oh, he is doing Vader. I would love to ask him what his thought process was here. Like, obviously, Vader is going to get some momentum pressure. If I were in a position where I was thinking about this more from the perspective of like, maybe I've already lost the first struggle and I'm going to go for some guaranteed wounds and force pressure. But my gut says that I would wanted to have done Boss or 7 Scorch. There's some fails in that roll for sure. 3 expertise, 2 hits being the only good successes on 10 dice. So just going to be 2 crits going through. Yeah, I'm definitely curious the thought. So that's definitely not going to kill the ISF. And so best he can do is go for a shove. And ends up with 5 damage on them. So, and then he has a recover action to heal 1. I love 7 Scorch. So my gut there probably would have been dash both of them, take shots at Hask, try to get him low enough where you can use explosives to finish him off, and then use 7 Scorch to control 2 points. Yeah, having that Vader Shatterpoint really just yield a VP and not a momentum is definitely putting Smalls in a tough spot here. Death Trooper Escort. That's a pretty much perfect draw for Pure in this moment. He just wants to take a point. Because the ISF are damaged and awake, this means that they get a reposition. So he can actually take that point from Vader, and with the movement from Death Trooper Escort, this means that I'm going to end up scoring 5. So this struggle is basically over. Because the ISF just getting shoved and not getting wounded there means that the being able to reposition both of them because they're damaged means they take that point, and Death Trooper Escort is definitely going to be able to go claim the last unclaimed point on that right side. Pure was just kind of discussing how much he would love to be able to accomplish this and not spend a force. This is kind of a higher ingress table. So it's just a question of the hunker plus a full advance if he'll be able to hit a ladder. Which looks like he is going to hit it. All right, saves the force there, doesn't get to shoot anyone, but he's going to score 5. Which doesn't look like it's quite taking the struggle, but I think it's 1 away. Oh, no, that is struggle. Oh, they're just realizing here that they forgot to resolve the scoring for Smalls. I was thinking in the moment, how is that possible that that's already over? So they both gain a momentum because it ended on 0, but that will not end the struggle. Yeah. Yeah, 1 away. That's what I was expecting. All right. Smalls reveals boss. I would still definitely be thinking in this moment, if I were Smalls, this struggle is over. You are going to really have a hard time coming back and swinging enough points to maintain this. So the question here is, how do you just set yourself up for the next round better? And so I would really like to, my plan, if I were in Small's shoes, would be, how can I take the most points and probably control the center to start? Yeah, the weird thing with Sabotage is because almost all of the possible objectives start off active, you sort of have to fight over the struggle as is, even when you're planning for the next struggle. So resolving, moving the various delta up onto points. Does look like he takes the strain damage on Fixer, which I agree with in this moment for sure. And then he's taking damage on Boss to give maximum movement, and he doesn't really need to switch to a reposition, but I think the reasoning for it is he wants the 3 damage for additional dice on whoever he's shooting. All right. All right, looks like we got Boss going into Hask, I believe. Probably getting bonus to Fixer dice. So it'll be 7 up to 8 from the damage on him, and then up to 10 with the Fixer dice. They're just reviewing the dice counts for Boss. Oh, and he's getting into melee, and so he's actually going to do Vader dice as well. So it is going to be 13. Big boss play. 13 dice into Hask. looks like it's going to be 3 blocks after expertise for Hask. This die, man, I think he rolled 13 dice with no fails. That's pretty impressive. It is a lot of expertise. Looks like 6 expertise in there. But that's going to end up with 6 crits. So 3 blocks and a recover. So still goes 6 down plus a damage. So I think that almost certainly is going to get a kill. That full tree. Going to be disarm, strain, and pin. Yeah. It does exactly 9 damage. So he is resolving, because he's got the, he rolled the expertise for 1 recover. That at least allows him to remove a key condition in preparation for the revenge deck. So he recovers the pin. He doesn't need a move. Okay. Gets the momentum. Pure is just making sure that boss is resolving all of his things. So he goes back to full force. So Hask dashes down, which also pops the strain. And he's going to shoot at boss, even though he's disarmed. But it's a free attack. Just 2 hits. Boss is definitely going to block it. He actually gets a recover out of it. Yeah. Yeah, so no big effect there. It just kind of cleared all the conditions. All right, then he resolves a move action to get onto that point, but he's just scoring 2. So that's going to guarantee that this struggle is going to end next activation. Yeah, I don't know if there was a better play for boss there than that particular play. There's definitely an element that if there had been a way to kind of finagle Fixer's dash to get him onto that point so that you could have taken that with a tiebreaker and used boss to go take a different point, would have been cool, but I don't know if that was possible in that moment, just with where the various models were. So now it's Pure's turn. Obviously, he's at this point, he probably just wants to save Vader, I'm thinking. He's winning the struggle either way. I mean, it's not bad to get Vader up onto a point and get another kill now. But I don't know if Vader's going to get to the back line and be able to take someone down. So with the Shatterpoint, he is going to do Iden. Get her back into the action. I like this play. She's already, positioned very well for taking one of the points that have not already been, that he's not controlling. And he has a really good chance with boss having taken 2, Fixer having taken 3. She now has pretty high odds of getting a key wound here, which could put Smalls in a really bad spot for the second struggle. And this is one of the things that you'll see with Sabotage, is that when you're playing it, struggle 2 can still be really favored towards the person who won the first struggle, depending on how dominantly they took the first struggle. So he's resolving the tactics dash to so he just moves up to that point, but there's not a ladder there. So here he's asking about climb. And so just keep in mind, it may look slightly awkward to you as the viewer because that's not straight down exactly where they're putting the template. So there's always a little bit of parallax. So what's happening here is spends 2 to expose the target and then is going to take 2 damage for Vader dice. And this is something a lot of people don't understand and is a key part of this list for him, is that Iden actually is pretty solid in melee, especially with Vader dice. So the opponent had forgotten about the expose, so had to remove the block that came from the expertise. So it's just going to be 2 blocks. Looking at it, needs 9 damage because it looks like that's one of the 7 Scorch models. So she does 9 damage to kill 7 Scorch before they activate. In melee, mind you. Vader amplification is not dead, nerds. And then she gets some heals. And then is putting strain back on Fixer. This again creates a really consistent problem where if Fixer wants to do the thing that he's really the best for, it's going to just keep racking up damage on him. So that is the end of Struggle 1. Pure takes it. Middle is going to be active either way. The plus side here is with this setup, there is actually the possibility of Smalls. The layout is going to mean that none of Pure's characters are on an active objective. So I think that's a really huge flip, because I think that is the only of the 3 cards that would have generated that situation for him. So definitely a solid flip that I think potentially keeps Smalls in the game. But kills are definitely racking up. I mean, I guess the kills are fairly even. Iden's been killed once. Hask has been killed once. ISF are not dead yet. So I guess, and then 7 Scorch have been killed, and 501st have been killed. So I guess the kills are even. It just feels so much more significant for Pure, maybe just when they've happened. All right, Crosshair. I don't hate this pull for him at all. Crosshair can definitely take an additional point and can easily get a kill along the way. So ISF are getting pinged for a damage from Crosshair. He's spending a force for Find the Shot. Here they're just verifying that even though it's a climb, he doesn't have to change elevation. There are some abilities that say if you changed elevation, then you get these benefits, but Crosshair's does not. They realized they had forgotten to roll for priority, so it is going to be the center objective. So that's perfect. That's where Crosshair wanted to go anyway. I do believe there's a fairly reasonable chance he could get to that back objective if he wanted. I think Pure is probably licking his chops a little bit for a potential like Vader obliterating Crosshair moment. But let's see. So looks like 3 expertise and a block from the ISF. Three overall fails, or was it 4 fails? Yeah, 4 fails. But then there is 3 expertise, 2 hits, and a crit. That's still going to end up being 3 crits and a damage after the blocks. So his block 3 and a recover, but 3 crits are going to go through, plus a bonus damage. So that is going to be more than enough to finish them off, which I think they have like 1 health. No, I have 2 health at the moment. Pure is using the recover from his defense tree to remove the pin. Crosshair is already on the middle point. Pure is just clarifying in the moment what was the priority objective. They did leave the control token over with boss. Technically, you would remove it, but nothing was changing back there, so he's just going to regain control of it now. So it looks like that's going to be a score 3 for Republic. What Smalls was kind of explaining in this moment was that he wanted to remove damage from Vader, but realized that the ability on Crosshair is specifically for removing conditions. All right. So now it is Pure's turn. He's definitely checking the Vader potential. Yep, as I kind of expected. Perfect time for Vader. A nice, juicy, full health secondary is pretty much perfect for Vader. The chances of him getting 9 damage is fairly high. I fully suspect that we're going to add 2 damage to take additional dice, which he is doing. It is Vader time. I love how that foiled Vader card almost looks orange on the camera. Crosshair is like solid block, so he is a character that I'd be at least slightly nervous about if the dice swing dramatically one way or the other. So it's basically going to be 3 blocks after 2 fails for Crosshair. Looks like only 1 fail for Vader. His expertise yielded a crit, and a hit. Oh no, there were some fails over there. So it looks like 4 down plus 2 damage. Looks like he gets it. It's going to be a total of exactly 9 damage, strain, shove. One of the things, if you were going to play this list, is one of the things you want to think about while you're resolving this shove is who do you want to use the Iden trigger on? And so think about your even though it's a wounded model, think about what direction you want to shove, and if you need to get closer to a particular opponent's model so you can add a status effect. Now it's Iden's identity. Yeah, so he did exactly what I was kind of talking about right there, where he shoved himself into range 4 of Fixer to put a disarm on Fixer. So now Fixer is both strained and disarmed, creating additional pressure where Fixer's not going to have a crazy turn. Vader flips to his defensive side. That was not the priority objective, so he is only going to score 1. Priority objective is the fail, which is the back point. That's reasonable for Chris. But I think if you're playing from Chris's shoes at the moment, it's not critical to win this particular struggle. He can definitely rack up wounds and put the pressure on Smalls. There's no revenge triggers in his list, right? Outside of Vader's, potentially getting to dash and make a melee attack. And with the way that this list unfolds, I think he can absolutely just use this time to put a ton of pressure on Smalls to make it so that he is just not prepared for struggle 3 at all. But at the same time, you're fighting over a very limited pool of objectives. There's only 7 total. And so you're kind of in this spot where you're like, hey, I'm going to rack up wounds. I'm going to rack up pressure, but I'm still taking objectives. And so if you see a big swing, then you can go, all right, now I'm trying to win this struggle right now. Because I have also seen when I've been playing very offensive lists that sometimes you let stuff drag too long. You end up in situations where they start reactivating characters, getting them back active on points, and then they get some key wounds on you, and then suddenly you're going into the third struggle not nearly as strong as you were maybe a couple of activations earlier. So 7 Scorch coming back into the action after getting wounded. First one is attacking Iden. So what Smalls is asking in this moment is which one has better defensive expertise. Yeah. And this was, I think, Pure is just trying to be a really good opponent here. There's some very subtle differences between their defensive expertise here and how many dice they're rolling, and just really wanted to put this, in his court of like, I don't want to tell you that one is better for you to attack and then potentially have you perfectly fail to kill them or something. And so he just wanted to be like, hey, they're both good. Which one would you prefer? So range attack into Iden. I'm not sure if it's Sever Scorch in the moment, but it's the same overall attack. 3 blocks, no expertise, 2 fails. 5 fails for Scorch. The 1 expertise does yield 2 hits, but that's not really going to matter. So it's just going to be 1 crit for 2 damage. Yeah, I don't know what's happened to Small's dice, but he's definitely had some fail spikes in this game for sure. And I don't mind saying that. Pure's definitely been on the other end of that at the Evergreen Open, where his dice were just like, hey, the fail symbol is what you want, right? And so he's definitely been there, and he'll be the first to admit when an opponent's dice are just not with him in that particular game. All right. I believe it is the other of 7 Scorch making an attack with Fixer dice into Iden. Iden has, looks like, 4 blocks after expertise. Also a recover. But she only has 7 health left. I'd like to think that 7 Scorch can get there. But I forget what their damage caps at. Oh, I think this one, I don't think this was Fixer dice. I think this was Vader dice, and this one was in melee. Which is why there's 2 damage on them. So it's going to be 6 damage, disarm, double shove. So the tough part about this is you're not getting a wound. And this is really key. The explosives from them normally can be really good because it's so easy for them to apply a strain. But in this particular case, now you need 2 to kill, and you don't have the bonus damage from the explosives that come from already being strained. Because if they deal a damage, it adds strain, so there's already strain on them. And so I don't know if I would be rolling on the explosives here. 2 expertise on 5 dice is definitely risky. So resolving a climb from the tree. All right, I believe there's still another action from 7 Scorch. They're taking a move action now. So the other one is also moving. They are not able to get to the priority point, but it looks like they are going to be able to take that middle from Vader. Yeah. 7 Scorch being down 2 health is really significant in this matchup. 8 health and protection is kind of right in a sweet spot. All right, priority roll was the fail, which is the one on Pure's side. He reveals ISB. I think he's totally fine with this. He's got a couple of options. He could take the guaranteed priority point in the back. He could also go after 7 Scorch if he wanted. Them with a focus and Vader dice could absolutely push through the damage on them. But I think what he might also be considering is getting one on the back point, shooting at 7 Scorch, and then having the other one get into melee and be able to use Vader dice, and maybe the combined effort is able to kill them as well, which would be the optimal situation. I don't know how likely that is dice-wise. Looks like they might be just doing 2 shots and kind of seeing how things go. So he has not used his ability for potential free focus. So it looks like he's just taking shots. Wonder if he's saving force for something specific. All right. So the one on the back objective is shooting first. Not a great roll. Looks like 2 fails, 2 hits, an expertise, and a crit. 7 Scorch have 3 expertise and a block. So I believe that's just going to be 3 blocks and a crit to hit. So after the crit mitigation, it's just going to be 5 hits versus 3 blocks. So 2 down. So not a big impact there. It's 2 damage reduced to 1 because the 1 shove on 7 Scorch doesn't move them. He goes ahead and puts a pin on them. They forgot about the Hask fixing a dice, so there is 1 more success. So it's going to be 4 damage pin. So now the other one's taking a shot. Not likely to get a kill, but definitely softening them up. Looks like just 2 blocks. Remembering the Hask dice modification this time. Block 2, so they're going to go 5 down. Yeah, I think 5 down does get them to 5 damage. Yep. 6 reduced to 5. Second kill on 7 Scorch. He didn't even need Vader dice there. That is... Yeah. 7 Scorch seem tanky, but it doesn't take a ton. But this is absolutely fantastic for Pure, because even if this goes to a third struggle, it means as soon as 7 Scorch come up in the second shuffle, they're leaving the table. And I mean, to be entirely honest, I think 7 Scorch is probably the best unit on small side of the board. So that's a rough spot. And this is where if he had not rolled the Vader dice, they would be alive right now. And so utilizing when to utilize Vader dice is not an easy choice. But I think, there's no way that Smalls knows in advance exactly what card is going to come up next, how much damage they do. But this is absolutely a situation where the fact he chose Vader dice ended up resulting in an overall net negative for him. All right, looks like score went down to, it's on 1, but on Small's side, so an extra momentum for Pure. So that you can't see it because it's being hidden by the terrain, but it's coming up where Pure's going to like run out of momentum spots pretty quickly. Fail is that back objective where the ISB is, which is definitely not what Smalls wanted. Because what he has left in his deck is going to struggle to get all the way to that back point. As I believe, so he's got 501st left and Fixer, I believe. So he's going ahead, he's going to activate the 501st, which have already been wounded. This is what happens when you play the super aggressive matchups. But the plus side is because Boss got a wound, he does have, he's not struggling for force, for sure. Both of the 501st are advancing. That one takes a ladder. He feels like it's just going to give him slightly more movement based on how far back he was because of the shoves. Now what he's thinking about here is potential range to the 501st, or to that ISB back there with the 501st, to see if maybe there's a world where he gets the shoves and like shoves him off and gets that 501st to the point. Seems unlikely, but I respect that he's checking it because that's the sort of play that you want to look for in those moments. Which he is definitely taking. It looks like he is in range, so he's going for the shot, which I definitely like. That's one of the most important targets there at the moment. And this is where the fact that Pure did not go for Vader dice to make that big play may actually like come back to benefit him significantly. So Fixer is going to add dice for him. So yeah, Fixer here is taking 3 damage off the strain to add a die. And so that puts up to 6 damage on Fixer. Definitely a tough spot, but I agree with the play here that you probably got to take that strain effect. Three expertise becomes crit and a hit. ISB is blocking 4, so it is going to be 1 down. People often forget that the ISB have really solid defensive expertise, so there's absolutely situations where you want to leave them at max health, because max health, with their expertise, which is more like a secondary, they can actually be very reasonably survivable. I believe that's just 1 damage and a pin on them. I did talk to Pure about this list before going into the event, and we were talking about the ISB, and for this exact reason, we talked about a few different possible builds for Vader that he was considering, and I think the ISB are really a standout option in this particular version, and he seems to be piloting them extremely well. There's some subtlety to like when do you deal damage, when do you not deal damage, and he seems to have a really good grasp on that, and for a unit that is often maligned by the general Empire community, he's playing them at an extremely high level, and I respect that, and I love seeing, you know, people recognize when there is that kind of perfect model that maybe not everybody loves, but is perfect for their list, and that's what we're seeing here. Second attack, I'm not sure who this is into. Looks like a not great block from Pure, 2 fails, 2 expertise. Looks like it's going to be going 4 down. This is, again, a big situation where 2 expertise, no blocks for ISB is still 2 blocks, which is something that most supports don't get. So it does look like he took another shot at the ISB. And so that puts him to 6... to a total of 6 damage, pin, strain. So again, this is what we were talking about earlier in the cast, where 7 Scorch used Vader dice, then perfectly got killed because of it. ISB, he chose not to get into melee, not use Vader dice, and because of that, he is perfectly living, where if he had used Vader dice, he would be dead. And as someone who hasn't played Vader 1 a ton, I played him a fair amount, just a little bit before the errata, as I was testing him in a Cad Bane list. The subtlety of when you use that ability is really important, but I definitely don't feel like I'm a master at it. And you can definitely tell here that Pure has been practicing Vader 1 quite a bit, because you just see how his choices with the Vader dice, he's not using it willy-nilly. He's using it when he really feels like he needs it, and when it sets up for big plays, and not taking unnecessary damage that he doesn't need. Now, you don't always know in advance exactly how that stuff is unfold. So I didn't say that meaning anything negative towards Smalls. I think there's an element of he's in a position where he's playing from behind. And so he just kind of needs a couple of things to kind of go his way. And so he may have to lean into that a little bit more and, just kind of hope that it doesn't spike bad, because he needs big swing plays. So I don't actually disagree with his choices to kind of lean into that a bit, and he's recognizing that he's playing from behind. It's crazy that the ISF is on the middle of the board and have not activated yet. Yeah. So ISF, we're already on the middle of the board, and have actually lived or not lived. He hasn't messed with the tokens on the ISF yet. He's currently debating, like, is he actually going after the target that he wants? So what they're kind of discussing here is this is a world where if the ISF kill 2 and he takes the back point, then he would win right now. And so I really like what happened there, and it made it look like that ISF just sort of teleported. But what he's declaring is that he was using the dash. He's going to go down through the gantry, which is legal, and there's a ladder there, and then he goes down, hits the ladder, comes back up. Not a play that everybody would think about. It's very commonly forgotten that you can choose to kind of de-elevate as you're taking a move action on gantries. So they were wounded. He was removing the damage and status effect. I'm not 100% sure who he's attacking at the moment. Hask does modify a fail, utilizing the expertise now. After 3 blocks, it looks like 4 is going to go through. 5 damage pin, which is on the 501st. Looks like also shooting 501st. Three blocks from the 501st. Looks like he's going 5 down after the 3 blocks, so that is almost certainly a dead 501st. Really here he's just kind of discussing what additional status effects are going on the 501st. He does hit a reposition. Iden trigger. Here he's taking the momentum. The Iden trigger was a strain on Fixer. So Fixer hasn't activated yet and has been strained 3 times. Utilizing the dash from the trigger to go hit that ladder. Now they're resolving the move action. He was just verifying that the game was not over yet. So he's going to be... This is going to leave Pure 1 away from winning. This is the normal move action. Looks like Boss got bumped a little bit, but positioning wasn't hugely critical. So that's going to score 4 and leave Pure just right up next to his momentum token. But my gut is that this is over in the moment. Last card is Fixer. I don't know how Fixer is going to swing 2 points here. I don't have a ton of Boss games, which also includes Fixer games. If the priority token ends up being on the back point, it's hugely bad. So it's the block symbol, which is where the 2 ISF are with... So maybe there's a world... Well, at the very least, Fixer can take that point. So looks like he's recover dashing himself, which will heal the strain and dash. So he's shooting the ISB, which are softened up. So here they're just checking to see if Boss counts as in. Pure is just saying like, hey, I believe Boss is in for this extra dice, where Smalls initially thought that he was out. But I feel like going after the middle here and not the priority objective is rough. But I suppose he can back up after this and just go hit the ladder and potentially be on the point. Man, he was disarmed and rolled no expertise and no fails. That was about as good as you could possibly ask for. So he's going to 5 down, which I believe is full tree for Fixer. See how much that disarm matters. Get that out of here. All right, so that's definitely going to be a wound on the ISB. So here, I feel like he's going to have to back up with his move action and take that back point and score 2 to make it possible for the game to go on. No, the problem is here that if he scores just 2, then he goes to score 0, which gives both sides a momentum, which means either way, it's kind of an auto win for Pure on the next activation, unless there's something here that I'm not seeing. But man, have they all totally ganged up. Here Pure was like, man, we got to totally have a picture of this like cluster in the middle. And I was standing there. I was like, I think I can probably take a picture of this. So, yep, there's my arm. Yeah, so taking the middle, he scores 1, which gives him a momentum. But at this point, Pure is still controlling 2 points. Because wounds do matter for tiebreakers, this is something where Pure would like to take his last activation to see if he can get 1 more wound. Pulls ISB. And so here, the two players have realized that this is over. Pure's already scoring more than 1 point. And I will, mad respect for Smalls. He, had a couple of like really rough dice rolls in there. But I'm listening to the audio, and sometimes when you have that happen from your opponent, they can get very negative and kind of derail an experience. And Smalls seems like he's staying in it, and so he doesn't seem like he's tilting. So I always have a lot of respect for people who like, hey, maybe the dice aren't perfectly with me this game, but they never take that out on their opponent. So huge amount of respect to him. So it sounds like the ISB are focusing. Mm-hmm. So here, I believe, I believe between, they're kind of stacking up some damage on the ISB. And so we can't do Vader dice on both attacks, but can on one. Fixing a fail because of Hask. Looks like 3 blocks overall for Fixer. Pure is applying his expertise now. Overall blocking 3. Looks like it's going 5 down. So that is full tree for the ISB. All right, that gets him 1 more wound. That is the end of the match. So huge shout out to both of these guys. Obviously, both have like definitely chosen to bring the wounds and choose the aggressive path. And so I know there's a lot of players out there who love that kind of game, and they're here for the fighting. And both Smalls and Pure definitely came with that in mind. So big respect to both of these guys. Obviously traveling to a GT always presents some challenges. You're trying to bring a list that has like some dark horse factor that also, kind of fits your play style. And it was really cool to see both of these in action, because Iden's fallen off a little bit, even, in my opinion, and Pure is clearly proving me wrong. But then Vader is not the most common pick for boss either, right? You see a lot of boss Hunter and a lot of boss Obi, but Vader hasn't quite shown as much. I think he is probably the 3rd favorite overall, but overall, I think both of these players were playing quite well given their situation. And, Pure's just showing that like there's times when Iden gets in there and gets into melee and still gets kills. So I really like what we saw here, and I'm really excited to dig into more of these videos. I recorded a total of 7 over the course of the GT, and I'm just going to start knocking these out. But I thought this would be a fun one to start off with. I know Pure is really proud of this kind of this exact list that he came up with for Vader 1 and Iden, and like how he was playing it and how he's showing skill in this particular build. And I thought this was a really cool matchup. And hey, sometimes you're just happy when you don't have a Cassian game. So I appreciate these guys so much, and huge shout out to Todd, Aubrey, Izzy, the whole team that was running events and recording over there. So definitely make sure you check out the Momentous Struggle stream. And I'm just going to wrap things up here and say, the most OP thing that you can do is like and subscribe, and let's keep this channel going. Later, nerds.